Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned Albino. This is top 20 games of 2019. 2019 was killer, straight up killer. One of the best years for gaming and for my specific taste in gaming in recent memory. Just to be upfront, I've only finished like half these games because there's too many. Too many games, man, too many good ass games. This list exclusively contains games I've played this year. I don't have any arbitrary cutoffs. If you're a 2019 game, you're in the 2019 list, and if you came out December of last year, you were in the last list. So what we'll do, in keeping with my previous videos, is go through the top 10, now 20, and then list some honorable mentions, games that almost made it, and then list some notable exceptions, games other people have said made it, and I'm like, nah, they ain't made it. Starting from 20, number 20, Remnant from the Ashes. You're going to be hearing the phrase like Dark Souls a lot in this list, but unlike the last couple of years when it wasn't warranted and people were using it on the Crash Bandicoot trilogy and shit for God knows why, 2019 has actually been a prolific year for games that are thematically and mechanically like Dark Souls, like Remnant. Remnant is Dark Souls as a third-person shooter, a game that is balanced for co-op, so you better be doing co-op. It's janky and unpolished and generally unwieldy, but with the right friend along, you can still have a great time. Number 19, Oninaki. Oninaki is a top-down action RPG where you navigate a culture obsessed with death and suicide as an armed beacon to help wayward spirits cross over to the other side. It's got combos, skill trees, cooldown moves, and different classes you can switch between on the fly during combat. Definitely worth your time if you like these kinds of games. Number 18, the Dark Pictures anthology Man of Medan. Medan? I don't know. Let's just get out there and be legends, bro. Man of Medan was the first in an upcoming anthology of short and sweet horror games with separate stories made by the people behind Until Dawn, and it cast you either solo or with friends as a group of divers looking for a wreck only to stumble upon a giant warship with terrifying happenings. The game is only about 3 or 4 hours long, but I was impressed by what it accomplished, and it was super fun to stream with a friend as you argue back and forth over what to do, because you're experiencing different scenes as different people that the other players aren't. I'm excited for the next installment. Number 17, Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 is more Borderlands, for better or worse, usually both. It's really slow to start and the humor is as embarrassing as ever, but as you get going and start leveling up and getting better guns and filling out your skill trees, you sink back into that rhythm and it feels fine. It's got modern shooter enhancements like alt-fire modes and sliding and mantling, but overall it's still Borderlands, so enjoy it or don't. Number 16, Luigi's Mansion 3. Luigi's Mansion 3, as I stated in my review, is a fundamentally terrific game packed full of the same quality of content throughout. There's just too much of it without the necessary mechanical evolutions to keep up, but it's still a great recommend, especially if you have someone to co-op with. Number 15, Concrete Genie. I love Concrete Genie's originality and the gameplay themes it's got going on. It's a great game to just kick back with when you can't commit lengthy amounts of time to more demanding experiences. Painting the walls of a town to drive back the darkness makes you feel important, and you can be as purposefully artistic or spammy as you want. Number 14, Control. Control is a third-person shooter with telekinetic powers at your disposal, and while it's a solid game, if you play an hour of it, you've pretty much played all of it as far as doing the same kind of stuff and having the same combat flowcharts over and over goes. Still worth a play, though, if you have the cash and like the genre. Number 13, Code Vein. I've only probably played half this game, but what I did play was enjoyable and hit all the right notes of the Souls-like genre for me. Code Vein is anime Dark Souls, even published by the same publisher, and while the environments and level design can be lackluster, the combat remains satisfying, for me at least. Plus you can swap playstyles from ranged mages to heavy weapon melee classes in the blink of an eye with the blood code system, which always keeps things fresh as you collect new abilities and weapons and skills. Number 12, The Sinking City. I played a pre-release version of this game where they've since fixed a lot of the technical issues, but even then The Sinking City was a nice open-world detective and monster-slaying experience. Ammo counts are always slim like in Resident Evil, so you have to choose your battles carefully, but I was also drawn into the Lovecraftian world and story besides as you explore a half-drowned town said to be ground zero for Cthulhu-based horrors. Number 11, Link's Awakening. As good a remake as I've ever seen, Link's Awakening has helped me get further into the Zelda franchise with its porcelain art style and crafty dungeon puzzles. Just feel free to skip the last 2 hours of the game. You don't need them, nobody does. Number 10, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Sekiro is a good game that was not made for me. It shakes up the Souls foundation to its core, and what comes out is an experience that relies heavily on parrying, which is a personal weakness of mine, and even longer and more difficult boss battles, which continue to suck the soul right out of my body. Running around the environment and exploring and dealing with regular enemies is some top-tier action, though, so it maintains this spot at number 10. Number 9, Bloodstained: Ritual of the Night. My first Bloodstained game, Ritual of the Night hits all the right spots when it comes to 2D platforming and combat, and the grinding is some of the most fun I've had grinding since the Kingdom Hearts franchise. With map exploration, power acquisition, equipment and ability upgrades, Bloodstained had everything I needed to keep me coming back for a couple weeks before I never played it again, but it was good while it lasted. Number 8, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield are foundationally the best Pokemon games just by virtue of their content. Like, they're relatively unpolished and can feel rushed at times, but everything the games offer just raises the floor of the quality up beyond what any previous games were capable of. A lot of my favorite Pokemon were cut from the National Dex, and it didn't even affect me until I was like 100 hours in looking for Pokemon to make monotype teams with. Everything bad you heard about this game before its release by people who never played it more or less evaporates once it's actually in your hands. It's still got some issues, but as far as being an enjoyable experience, these games have the best online offerings of any game to date, and as such, they've got great staying power and are well worth your time and money. Number 7, Dragon Quest Builders 2. An early 2019 Game of the Year contender when it released, Dragon Quest Builders 2 gradually fell down the list to better games as the year went on, but it remains an incredibly fun building sim you can sink hours and hours into. The only problem I have with it is that the combat is garbage. The story sections of the game rely heavily on you just mashing the square button in front of tankier and tankier enemies, and it really drags things down. But once you're past that and doing what the game does best, which is building, the time flies by, and all of a sudden it's 3 in the morning and you don't know what happened. As someone who sunk a bunch of time into Minecraft initially but then got over it, Dragon Quest Builders 2 revitalizes the block placing genre in all the right ways. If it had actual combat, it would be a near-perfect game. Number 6, Disco Elysium. Another game I haven't finished but put about 12 hours or so into is a title that I had never heard of until I saw someone tweet about the fact that it had just released. Disco Elysium is a PC exclusive I bought on Steam, and it's a fully immersive detective mystery RPG where after a weekend bender while working a case, your character wakes up with full amnesia and must now not only solve the case he was assigned, but the mystery of who he is. The gameplay is pretty much exclusively point-and-click wandering and word-heavy dialogue, but the way the world completely ropes you in is something that hasn't happened to me in a while, and there's a sense of levity to the whole thing that makes for some entertaining reading. The other major feature is how staggering the amount of choices and possible outcomes are. Depending on your skill build, you can specialize in different areas of conversation and interactivity, and they drastically change the way the story unfolds on a per-playthrough basis. It's probably a niche game in terms of being interested in everything that it offers, but there's a reason Disco Elysium has generated plenty of buzz since its release. Number 5, Kingdom Hearts 3. I've been a Kingdom Hearts 3 defender since the game came out, which is a phrase that is very sad to have to say, but despite anyone else's gripes with story or some of the world's gripes I can partly share at times, they didn't sour my experience of playing through KH3 for the first time. The Pirates of the Caribbean world is the most graphically impressive thing I've ever seen in any game ever, let alone the Kingdom Hearts franchise. I straight up can't believe it wasn't an option on PlayStation's Best Graphical Showcase award. The combat innovates through Keyblade forms and attraction commands and grand magic and more party members. The worlds, while occasionally content-deprived, are impressively massive and spectacular, but most importantly, through the lens of a true Kingdom Hearts fan, the game at its core, just by virtue of existence, is a continuation of a beloved saga that remains important to so many of us who have played it since we were kids. I don't say that to excuse any flaws, I say that to remind people that we've stuck through plenty of flaws just to get this far, and we're gonna see plenty more as it continues, but as long as they're offset by the anticipation and joy the series consistently brings, it's a path we'll keep treading gleefully. Number 4, The Outer Worlds. It's like Fallout but with space travel. It's hella good. Number 3, Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is one of those rare games you can replay for literally no reason other than that it's just fun. The zombie killing, inventory management, hidden secrets, upgrades, puzzles, all of it make Resident Evil 2 a blast of a remake, and especially stand out as a brand new experience to someone like me who never played any of the original Resident Evil games before 5. It's very easily summarized by just saying, get it, it's fun. Number 2, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. We still say Fallen Jedi around here, though. Fallen Jedi is a masterclass of a game that only lacks a little polish, but that doesn't stop it from executing so much of what it does perfectly. The combat is exciting and challenging, the enemies are fierce. This game is affectionately called Jedi Souls for a reason. The Dark Souls influence is there, but beyond that, it also takes cues from Uncharted and the most recent God of War to really bring home the bacon on being incredibly fun. There are secrets, hidden bosses, thrilling lightsaber duels, interplanetary exploration and collectibles, experience, upgrade skill trees, new traversal abilities that unlock new locations and old areas. Fallen Jedi's got it all, and that's why it's my runner-up for Game of the Year. And I don't even like Star Wars. Now we move to number 1. Number 1, Fire Emblem Three Houses. I think Three Houses is the best Fire Emblem of all time, and it's my game of the year for the simple reason that I loved it the most out of anything else I played. I spammed it non-stop for months, several hours a day. There are 4 different story routes you can take that are all 80 plus hours each, and I beat them all, some of them twice. Your units have never been more flexible, and with New Game Plus, they've never been more perfectible. You can spend months just classing and reclassing your units to give them whatever skills you want them to have that they can permanently keep between playthroughs. The grind is real if you want it to be, and it's incredibly rewarding, but backing off from the advanced stuff, there's just so much game here that it's actually ridiculous. The cast is the most solid of any Fire Emblem title, or at least it seems that way, because no other game has made you care more about your units than this one by putting you in a teaching role and literally shaping the growth and relationships of your students. The campaigns are already tremendous, but there's even more content on the way in 2020, so Fire Emblem Three Houses isn't a game that next year is going to leave behind. It's just phenomenal through and through. So that's the main top 20. Next up we have a few honorable mentions that didn't quite make it for one reason or another, and we're going to start with honorable mention number 1, Dreams. Dreams is a game where everything is possible and nothing is off limits to you as a creator. I'm putting it in the honorable mentions this year because it's still technically in early access, which means next year it'll be in the running for the real stuff, but also because this is a game that can only get better with time, as more creators figure out and pour their expertise into their projects. I've already played some fantastic looking Dreams levels, but in the first year of release we're mostly seeing concepts and demos of what's to come from the community. That gets me excited for 2020, which provides an opportunity for the dreams of the players to truly shine. Plus, that's when the story campaign of the makers of the game themselves will be released, so you can see the pros in action. Dreams still has the most potential of any game by default, so we'll keep looking to see how close they get to fully realizing it. Honorable mention number 2, the Ace Attorney trilogy. Remasters and ports don't count for my Game of the Year list, full remakes do, hence Resident Evil 2, but the Ace Attorney trilogy is just the first 3 Ace Attorney games on a bigger screen, essentially. But that being said, it was my first time playing them after everyone said I'd like them because I'm a huge Danganronpa fan, and while the tone of the 2 franchises couldn't be more different, they do hit some of the same notes. This was a hugely fun franchise to do a series of on my channel, and I'll do all the voices just like Danganronpa was, so it's got a good place in my heart for that, and it's also a very genuine game with great writing and some emotional moments that don't feel hamstrung. The characters are super strong, and the story is plenty engaging. And now we move on to our notable exception category, of which there are 3 games that for one reason or another I was like, nah, fuck that, when other people were like, yeah, that! Notable exception number 1, Mortal Kombat 11. You can't run. That's it. That's the whole gripe. In MKX, you could hold R2 and double tap the front directional button to make your character sprint forward, which was the main way to extend your juggle combos after your initial hits launched them into the air and a short ways away from you. You'd knock them into the air, do a quick sprint to catch up, and then keep your combo going. It wasn't broken by any means, it was the bread and butter of many characters' combo game. Mortal Kombat 11 doesn't have that, and as such, I hate it. I bought it day 1, I tried playing it, everybody felt like their legs were glued to the ground, I turned the game off, never touched it again. Don't mess with my character's legs, bro. I ain't trying to play Mortal Kombat Wheelchair Edition. Notable exception number 2, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. I think the original CTR is better than the original Mario Kart. I think mechanically, the new Crash Nitro Fueled, when analyzing purely what's happening on the racetrack, is more fun than Mario Kart 8, if a little less balanced. The racing is top tier, the tracks are top tier, the characters from the original CTR are top tier, even though nobody else is. So why then would I put this game as a notable exception on my Game of the Year list when the fundamental aspects of the gameplay are so good? 2 reasons. 1, I'm annoying. 2, Activision is annoying. I'll explain both. Activision is annoying because they took a racing game of beloved innocent PlayStation icons and sold their souls to the corporate devil. They commercialized everything. They turned it into Fortnite racing. You've got in-game currency that can be purchased with real money when Activision literally promised they wouldn't do that shit. You've got the equivalent of the Fortnite Battle Pass. You've got an entire economy of skin, wheels, carts, stickers, all that bullshit that would set you back a year's salary if you bought them all. And while you can earn the currency in-game as well, Activision throttled the gains prior to implementing their real money transaction system, which they did a couple months after the game's release. That's just slimy shit. I'm a capitalist at heart, but crony capitalism should be frowned on from all sides. This shady garbage, especially in a kid-friendly game, is unacceptable. In addition to that, it makes the characters seem bought and paid for, like they sold out. Crash Bandicoot is a corporate shill now. The issue is that the game breaks the fourth wall and actually puts the esports theme in the game, so the characters are aware of it. Like, it's not just that the game has esports potential, it's that the game is about what is basically an esport, if that makes sense. And I don't like that in this Crash universe, because that means the characters now all suddenly have the same motivations that a real-life esports competitor would. Like, oh, I gotta think about my sponsors and my team, I gotta make sure I don't post anything offensive on Twitter. It breaks the immersion for me in a way that is unrecoverable. So that's why Activision is annoying. The reason I'm annoying is that I'm letting it all get to me and tarnish my view of what is an objectively fun game to play on the surface. I am stepping outside my gamer identity and into my consumer identity. And consumer identities are way more annoying about stuff like this. Gamer identity just wants to play fun games. Consumer identity wants to make sure more fun games get made. All of us have both identities in us, and they'll fight. And they can both be wrong or go too far. I don't know where I'm going with that, but my consumer identity has taken the reins on Crash Nitro Fueled and is saying, no, you can't enjoy that. So that's where I'm at. Notable exception number 3, Death Stranding. I tried to like this game. I was optimistic about it. I went in assuming the story and plot and weirdness of it all would save the bland gameplay that everyone was saying it had, and for some people it did save it. But for me, Kojima shot himself in the foot by making choices that seemed to consistently undermine the serious tone of his own narrative, like the egregious fourth wall breaking advertising, for example. Now, Death Stranding takes place in a destroyed America, so it's not impossible to imagine that real companies and whatever could survive, and that through some circumstance or another, the only surviving drink left is Monster Energy. I don't like it, but I can imagine it. The thing that really got me was when Sam Porter Bridges, who was played by Norman Reedus, went to use the bathroom and the glass door closed behind him and a graphic of an ad for AMC's Ride with Norman Reedus appeared on screen. That's fucking bullshit. That is a real show starring Norman Reedus, who is playing Sam Bridges in the game, which means that there is no Norman Reedus in Death Stranding's universe, to say nothing of the fact that I highly doubt they're still shooting TV shows on the crumbled ruins of the country. That is a pure fourth wall break advertisement that completely shatters immersion and makes me genuinely angry. Hey, we know you're having fun trying to lose yourself in this game, but to support the actor playing one of our characters, why don't you make sure to tune in to The Walking Dead? Go fuck yourself. There's no excuse for that. That shit happens like an hour into the game, and from then on I couldn't forget about it. I only made it through 2 chapters, and I'm not sorry for quitting. And it's not even just the ads. When you're in your bedroom or whatever, Norman Reedus' character will sometimes just stare directly into the camera and make a face at you, or he actually gets up and moves the camera to another location for you to look at, so he knows he's in a game. We're pulling that garbage too? You deserve every lukewarm review you got. I've never seen a game director work so hard to delegitimize his own creation. It's actually aggravating. But that's going to do it for Sunburned Albino's Top 20 Games of the Year list. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino, and consider becoming a channel member to financially support me on a month-to-month basis. I will see you guys next time.